The 2010 theme comes with a whole slew of customization options, including changing the background. You can change both the overall background color and also attach a background image to your site to create some interesting looks. The background of the 2010 theme is controlled from the background option found under Appearances on the left-hand tab. So we'll go to Appearance and select Background. Now here's an important point. Not all themes support background. So if you're using the 2010 theme, you'll see it. But if you use a theme that doesn't support it, this menu option won't be there. First, let's look at color. If we look at our site, by default, the background color for the 2010 theme is this light gray, but we can change it. If I simply go here and type a different color, I can type D2EDF8, for instance, you see it changes to blue. And if I click Save Changes and reload the page, you'll see the background now has changed to blue. I can also use a color picker to select any color I want. I'll simply drag the cursor around and then select a hot pink, for instance. Click Save Changes and reload it again. And now the background is hot pink. You see where this is going. You can create some very interesting and personal looks to the site by simply changing this background color. But in addition to changing the background color, you can also add a background image. Now you can do this in several different ways. You can either tile the images or just have one big image as the background. And I'll show you how those things work and how they differ. First, let's use a tiled image. In the exercise files, we have two different background images, and I'll use one of them first so you can see how it works. I'll click Browse here under Upload Image. Navigate to Graphics and select this very small image called Green Tile. When I click Upload, you'll see we get this small image tiled from left to right and from the top to the bottom. Tiling is a very common way of making a background on the web. You have one small image that you repeat over and over so that the web browser doesn't have to import a huge image to begin with. It looks quite interesting. When you save this and reload the page, you see we get this green background with these dashes. But what if we only want a border at the very top? Well, then we go down to these extra display option settings and say, instead of repeat tile, I'll say tile horizontally. As you can see in the preview, we now have just a border at the very top. And if I save it and reload the page, that border appears on the very top. The problem is, since we're logged into WordPress.com, we already have this bar at the top, so it's hiding the border. Unfortunately, I actually can't show you how this looks. But if this was a self-hosted site, you would now see a tiny little green border at the very top of the site. We can do the same by tiling it vertically, so we have a border on the side. Again, save changes, reload the page, and now the border appears on the side here. Finally, you can set it to no repeat, in which case only one instance of the image appears at the top here. But that really doesn't make much sense when we are working with such a small image. So let's change it to a much larger image. I'll go to Browse again and select this HPBG instead and upload it. Now this is a very large image that has some flowers in it that will fit very well with the overall theme. Now I need to change my settings here. I'll set the position to center instead and set it to no repeat and attachment to scroll. Now that I save the changes and reload the page, you'll see we have a background image with some flowers in it at the very back. But when I scroll down, the image ends and then we get this pink. Now we have two options. I can either go down here and say tile vertically, save the changes, and then we'll get these flowers repeating vertically. But that doesn't really work because my graphic cuts off the flower. So what I want to do instead is match the color in the background here so that it flows seamlessly down to just a solid blue. So I'll go back, go to the color, and manually type in the color I want, D2EDF8, and then change it to no repeat. Save the changes. Reload the page. And now we have a seamless background that starts off with these nice flowers and then disappears down. The other great thing about this particular look is that because I center this, if I unwedge my window and resize it, you'll see that as I resize it, the background flows with the main content. As you can see, even something as simple as changing the background of your site can have a huge impact on how it looks. We've barely scratched the surface of what is possible here. The best way to explore this further is to just experiment and see what happens.